Actually, I want to start with saying happy birthday to Clara.
Oh,
This episode will be dedicated to Clara's birthday. Okay, she's 21.
Again, yeah.
she sounds
And-
about 21, I
yeah.
know, but she's not.
And you like them young.
Yeah. We're a certain age, aren't we, Chris? So, I mean,
Shh.
you know how it is. We look about 25 in world, and then in outside world, yeah, we're not. But there we go.
Yeah, let's keep it that way. I think that's why
Yeah.
we're here. Okay.
Definitely.
Look forever young.
Yeah. Are we recording, by the way?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'm getting like deja vu now. When I spent the first 15 minutes last time wondering if you were actually recording, and you were, and I hadn't realised that you had the thing switched on. It was absolutely insane. That, I have to say, our last live sync that we did, I had such a laugh with that, and I know I thought we
It
were
was
talking maybe
fun.
for about 40 minutes, and we ended up talking for 2.5 hours nearly, and it was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, I liked
it was
the
like
live
four-
stream. It was fun. Liked seeing the comments and people sharing their thoughts and asking questions.
Yeah. I mean, there were
Yeah.
quite a few people for a first time. I was a surprising number of people that came in. So, thank you out there to all the people that came in. If you liked what you saw, like and subscribe, as I think all the bloggers say, and YouTube and stuff. So yeah, Trish is out there. She's doing all this stuff, and it was lovely to see the guys that turned up. If you didn't turn up and you wanted to, why didn't you? If you didn't turn up and you wanted to and you weren't there, but you were a bit feeling shy, don't be shy, because we all go through
What
it.
the fuck are you doing with your life?
Yeah, what are you doing? Here we are. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think having chat with Chris, we're going to be doing more of them. I think probably about every other time, aren't we? So something like that. So,
Yeah. Well,
and
I have to practice because I had an issue when I tried it with Wagner and Harry. The stream,
yes.
Yeah, the stream failed. Like I had a YouTube error and I couldn't figure it out, so we had to go record it.
Yeah.
So that's why
Which
I'm
brings us
not
quite
risking it today, but I will be. I think I'm going to try
Yeah.
to just do, like other people do, they stream their game just to see why.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I
to
think a
learn.
few people say I talk. I think a few people say I talk too much too. So please, for the love of God, if I'm talking too much, just tell me to shut up, please.
Shut up! Shut up!
Set your cake
yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
Joking aside, it's nice to get the conversation going, but I shouldn't all be about me, please. So yeah, I'm just out here. But so thank you for that, Chris. I mean, we had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm looking forward to doing some more of those, and looking forward to meeting some more people out there as well. Here we are back on the boat again. I was trying to figure out where we could park this thing, so I've ended up just plugging in for Blake's Sea and said let's just res a place and res somewhere else where I don't usually res it, and I've picked this other place which seems to be where a lot of the races start for sailing. And there's a small airport, and we've parked between the runways on that. And if I look across the starboard side on the bow side, I can see across to Sirens Islands. There appears to be a whole number of crashed planes around here, and I don't know if this is deliberate or if it's accidental. There's some crashed planes by the side of the airport here, which is hysterical. There's one plane that's completely vertically nose down on the tarmac, which is amazing. If I look across to the Sirens Islands, there's another one crashed over there as well. We seem to have a whole load of crashed planes, which is quite hysterical. And I must admit, when I started on this thing, I did look around and thought, my God, have I actually managed to find a place that hasn't got a lighthouse anywhere? And I suddenly realised that if I did look behind Chris over on the starboard side there, I can see right across to the big lighthouse in the distance. So I've not deprived everyone of that joy. I know it's small things for small minds, you know how it goes. So there we go. How is everybody? Have we all had a good week this week?
Yeah, busy as usual.
Yeah. We're recording this on Easter Sunday, so here we are. Clara's just taken her bunny ears off and her fluffy tail. which is nice of her. That's
I
a
can
good
put
look
them
for
back on at any time. You say
That's
the
a
word.
that's a good look for a birthday, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, so yeah. I did catch sight, Chris, of an interview that you did with Wagner and friends last time, and there was all sorts of ideas about the metaverse and what the metaverse is, and is Second Life a game, and all these kind of things. And yeah, I've got my own thoughts about it, and they're not quite the same as what you've heard before. And I hear from a lot of people.
Okay, so before we start with the metaverse, because I've been rebranding. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I saw this. I know what you're going to say.
So I've been rebranding because Lex and the City, it was probably cool 15 years ago, but now, it's a little bit, my business has grown, or my vlogging has grown, so I decided to go for a more professional name, which is Meta Realities. And I've been moving the website. I've got a web developer that moved the website so that it goes directly there, and then I decided to rename all my socials as well, which I started with Instagram, and Meta Realities was already taken, so I went with metarealities.io because that's my website. And then I went to change the name on Facebook, my Facebook page, which is Lex and the City. So not my personal Second Life page, my profile, just my Lex and the City, which I've had for years. And when I put in Meta Realities, Facebook suspended the page for impersonation.
Because they've tried to take the moratorium on the name of Meta. So yeah, I can understand that.
Which was kind of funny, and I tried to appeal it, and they don't have a big support system anyway. Like, you can't talk to a real person; it's done automatically. So even the appeal just rejected it automatically.
And you can't say, I guess, that the meta that you're thinking about is nothing to do with Facebook. The meta you're thinking about is in terms of metaverses, because Facebook have been trying to create a metaverse themselves, so they're still going to jump all over you on that side of it as well. I think
meta is a word, like they don't own it. It would be like Linda Lab saying, you can't use the word second.
We've talked about copyrights and stuff, haven't we, in the past? We've got the other side of it now, where we're falling foul of a real life brand out there, and actually you're trying to promote yourself promoting yourself to that brand on that brand's own platform, and that's a bit I can see why they might not be overly comfortable with that.
Well, but it's not. I'm not using Meta. It's Meta Realities. They're using Meta as Meta. Like, it's not them.
Yeah.
I have the domain name, and I even have the business name as well registered. So in Australia, I'm Meta Realities as a business. Yeah.
I've been joking about suing. Probably don't sue, but there should be a way to contact their legal team, I'm sure.
Yeah. I could probably go to the file a support ticket and having them to look at it, and they can check, my ABN is registered as Meta Realities. I have the domain name, and maybe I should have changed the website first. When you on the page, you can have links. That would have linked back to me before changing the name.
Yeah. So here's the thing: in 2021 November, when Facebook called itself Meta, it invested something like $10 billion investment in developing virtual experiences and getting a lot of people involving to point and use the metaverse as a whole new computing interface. So everyone was going to have avatars, and everyone was going to be, talking, promoting businesses, living the real life, having conversations, a bit like Teams or Zoom calls, using your avatars as well as people. And there's a whole virtual thing started out there. And even Bill Gates jumped on that, saying that meetings could start moving from the screens to the metaverse, as they called it, in 2 to 3 years. And then, 2022. It all popped, didn't it? Basically, there were a lot of financial losses. Meta, or Facebook, or Meta, whatever call it, I think we would call it Meta, don't you? Meta had a division called mixed reality, and it was the Reality Labs unit. And they laid off a whole load of people. They also were investing in HoloLens at the same time as well. There were cryptocurrency investments that all collapsed. And people were basically trying to get back. This is after, obviously, COVID. So everyone was trying to get back to their lives before COVID. People weren't really going for extended reality devices. And that was one of the things that basically stopped, the investment, and stopped that whole thing developing. And in 2023... Meta's Reality Labs, does this not sound familiar, Chris? Meta's Reality Labs unit had a 16.1 billion loss. Wow. And Disney had a Metaverse division as well. They cut it all together. And the media have been saying the Metaverse was dead. There was a bit of backlash on there. In 2024, Apple basically brought out their Vision Pro headset, and they've been trying to disassociate the whole device from the Metaverse, and calling it augmented reality, and then enter to spatial computing and doing all of that. But the metaverse isn't dead, because despite that, the fact there's a number of things that people do on the metaverse. When we talk in terms of metaverse, you could be talking in terms of augmented reality. You can be talking in terms of virtual reality. So augmented reality is where you're layering what you see through the screen on top of the physical environment, but without the ability to manipulate anything. You're just looking. The virtual reality is where the real world is hidden. That's pretty much what we're seeing in Second Life. But you're in a 3D, 360 simulation. So basically, if you can think of Second Life with augmented reality, or Second Life with your virtual reality glasses, that's what virtual reality is. And then you've got the mixed reality side of it, which is a halfway house between the two, where basically you can blend augmented reality and then the virtual reality into one thing. So basically you're then starting to manipulate and deal with things that are in the virtual reality, but having overlaid over the real world. A bit like, I'm trying to explain it, give you an example. If you remember Tom Cruise in Minority Report, where he had those glasses, and then basically these whole screens appeared in front of him, and he could swipe and tap as he was going through looking for things. That's what we're talking in terms of a mixed reality. And if you've got the glasses, then obviously you can do that. A lot of people don't have that kind of kit right now, and there was all this talk about Sansar at one point being a means to getting to that. Didn't quite work out that way, unfortunately, but there's been a bit of consolidation in terms of what Second Life are doing and that things, and obviously they're starting to, having got the investors involved and bringing more investment capital through, they can start investing that capital in developing the platform and bringing it up to speed. And things like PBR are a great start on that. We've got things now where it's moving into a browser. There's other elements as well, and then you've got industrial metaverses out there where companies are building digital versions of themselves to design and monitor physical objects. They're using virtual reality to train employees. I can go into a defence establishment and I can get a guided tour of the whole establishment by putting some VR glasses on, and I don't actually have to move into any secure areas, but they can give me a whole guided tour of everything that they want me to see, doing the whole thing, and literally I can walk around as if I was a real person in there, and they do that. That is one way of some military companies, or military organisations rather, are letting people an idea of what they do without telling them what they're actually doing, if you follow me, from a security point of view. So that's quite interesting. And here we are now. people are now looking for virtual products which tie back to the physical world. So, Chris, when you're talking in terms of your brandings, with your Gucci's and your Dior's and all those designer labels, etc., people are saying that, potentially, could we get virtual products which tie back to the physical world and that way? As long as we don't breach in copyright and all of that, then, there is a big market there. June 2023, McKinsey, the consultant space, the market analyst, said that the market for metaverse commerce alone, from home and food to fitness and apparel, could drive anything up to $5 trillion in value creation by 2030.
Oh, wow.
Whether or not that's a lot of money. Not as much as Trump's trade tariffs, but a good amount of money in any case. I'm joking when I said that, by the way. Please don't me down. So
Don't cancel
yeah. There's another element from another data gathering company, Statista, basically is pegging that market at something like 74.4 billion in 2024, and reckons that by 2030, using an annual growth rate of 38%, it's going to raise about 507.8 billion and have over 2.6 billion users globally. Now, I'm not saying Second Life is going to have that, but I'm saying that market in general, using all the parties, all the platforms, all combined with all their platforms out there. Is there any accident, therefore, that you feel that Second Life can get a private investor or investment capital company to invest in their market, their marketplace offering, Tilia particularly, and developing all that form, because that is a great means to that market space, and that's where the money's coming from. So is Second Life dying? No, I think it's changing, and I think it's a question of people having the awareness to see the change, react to it, maybe embrace it if they don't have the choice over it. And I think choice is always a great thing to a lot of people in different countries, and people, what one person chooses may not necessarily be the path that somebody else may choose. There's clearly a lot of things that can go on as far as the metaverse is concerned, and the future of that, and I think there's definitely a future for it. It's just a question of where you're dealing with a community-based metaverse right now, as we have in Second Life right now. Which direction does that community want to go in? Does it want to go in terms of embracing? Does it want to go in terms of online shopping? Does it want to go in terms of developing new concepts, meeting new people, bringing the world together? There's an awful lot of different things that's out there. People can work, shop, socialize, a lot. Entertainment, a lot.
So
and I guess that leads us.
Do we call it a game or not? Then
that was going to be the next thing. Did you ever see that? Did you ever see that film Ready Player One?
Yes.
Came out about 14 years ago, something like that. And Steven Spielberg made it. We've actually got a guy in the organisation I work with actually helped us. He worked on the CGI team on that, and he's. The stuff he's done has been absolutely amazing, and we've got a little tribute to him there as well. But that was an amazing film where people can escape their real world problems by entering this thing called the Oasis, and they put a VR headset on there and haptic gloves giving you a bit of feedback, and basically they lived a second life, but in a virtual reality sense. And then, the technologies have gone way back to the 60s and stuff as well. But, that's pretty much where it came from. And it's interesting to see how that's moved forward. And there's been other films in the early 90s. Snow Crash was one, where people, again, gained status in part to the skill of their avatars. So, again, it's people using avatars to interact, to talk, and everything else. And then we get the question that you've just asked me. Is Second Life a game? It's there seems to be, it's in human nature for a lot of people, in my personal view, this is my personal view, okay? There seems to be a lot of willingness and a desire in people to pigeonhole everything that they do or experience. So every time you might see something new in Second Life, someone's going to try and relate that to something they already know and put it in that box and lock it in there. You can talk to people in music and they try and say, so what style is this? And they want you to categorize it in one particular style, and then they might start arguing you that it might not be in that style. Music is a constantly evolving art form, and whether you can therefore say that if one person's trance is another person's techno, and another person's techno could be another person's house music, in reality, taste, culture, outside influences, new ideas from people, it constantly evolves. So which box do you put it in when something's a dynamic commodity? You can't. So when people say to me, or when I see these questions, is Second Life a game? Well, let's take it back to a common sense approach. What is a metaverse? What is Second Life? What's it for? What does it actually do? A metaverse basically is a meeting of physical and a virtual space that you access it through a computer, and then you could basically enable it by immersive technologies or enable it through your screen and a keyboard and everything else. And what do you do? What's it there for? What's it there for? In Second Life, we have all sorts of things going on, don't we? I mean, we've got people that are making art. We've got people that are playing music. We've got people that are shopping, and they're spending real money when they go shopping. We've got people out there that are talking as a community. We've got people that are interacting with other people, new technologies. There are people trying to show them new parts of the world they may not necessarily have seen before and be educational. It's a life into itself. And if you come out of Second Life for a second and you come into the real world, what's the real world? Is the real world a game or is it not? Well, in the real world, people can work, they can go shopping, they can make music, they can talk to other people, they can work, they can do everything that you do in Second Life. So where do you draw the distinction? Is the real world a game? There are some people in the real world that will treat it as a game. There are other people that will treat it very seriously. In Second Life, there are some people that treat Second Life as a game. There are other people that treat it very seriously. Frankly, if I'm playing with my money and I want to go shopping, I'll take a very shrewd look at what I'm buying because I don't want to waste my money. That's not a game to me unless I'm completely loaded and got money to waste. So
Don't we all wish?
But the whole shopping culture out there, and that's obviously promoted by the businesses that want you to spend the money, because obviously you spend your money keeps them going, and makes it all worthwhile. So is that a game? No. You might want your avatar to look really great. You might want to buy this Australian hunting dog. Name is is that a game? It's nice. It makes it look nice. It makes your avatar more pleasing to you, and it's more showing your character.
More pleasing to me too.
Yeah. Is it therefore a game? Whether you say Second Life is a game depends on the people you are talking to, and the reason that they actually use Second Life and what they do in Second Life. And people do all sorts of things, because sometimes they'll go shopping, sometimes they will go to a club, sometimes they will go and look at the educational sides of it, or they might have a business doing other things. People do a lot of different things, and they don't all necessarily think of them as being a game. And that's the difference. I think where problems come is when the people that, for example, think it's a game come into contact with the people that don't think it's a game.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation a couple of months ago, didn't we? We talked about people that play on other people that play characters, who's real and who isn't, the use of alts, etc. Who do you trust, and all of that. It's when those two camps come into, two of the different worlds come into close proximity and come into conflict with each other, because one person's treating it seriously and they're in that box, and someone else is in the other box and think it's a game and they think it's fun maybe they might think it's fun to be more political and wind up the first person. They might think it's fun to brief them and let's really create a bit of drama here, and it's quite entertaining. It's like watching a soap opera on telly. You create a bit of drama on these things and see how they can react and stuff, and that's a game to them. They might necessarily think that other person is a real person so much because they're too busy playing their own game. Role play. What is role play? Role play is where you basically play at big in a role, don't you? That's where the term comes from. So people, imagine that they're in a particular situation and they play that particular role as a game. But when I go shopping for clothes I'm wearing, and I don't do it very often because I've kind of bought everything I need to buy right now. That's just me. When I go shopping, I'm not role playing then because I'm actually spending real money. I know it's spending real money because it turns in my bank account and I can see the money disappearing, and yet all I'm buying is pixel stuff to clothe my avatar. So that's not a game. People playing role plays are playing games. I look like myself. There are other people that look like any animal or combination of animals or hybrid animal peoples, or there's all sorts of things out there. People with
there was a guy who was a banana the other night.
Yeah, that was quite funny. Or like when you turned up here earlier, Clara, you had rabbit ears and a fluffy tail on the back there because it's Easter. People go around like that regularly. I guess that's an enhancement. That's a view of their personality. But that's a game. People don't look like that in the real world. So, and the problem is when you then have people that are in the real world looking at these other people and they're saying, "Oh my God, gamers," they're playing it as a game. And then people saying, "Well, I've got a right to look like that." Well, okay, fine. If that's your character, then fine. That's good for you. But trying to map and enforce that perception and that reason for you being in Second Life on somebody else who isn't there for the same purposes and isn't in the same box as you, I think that's where it comes. That's where we constantly have this round robin. As is it a game or isn't it? To some people it's a game. To some other people it's not a game. And that's my take on it. So
What I was surprised is that if Linden Lab didn't want to put Second Life on Steam just because they didn't want to label it as a game, which I think is a stupid idea.
Well, okay, you had some gentlemen in an earlier session that basically came on and you asked them the same question. It was interesting to see what answer they gave you. And I would beg to differ from what I heard in those days because the perceptions and the answers that they were saying were based on their own personal opinions and not necessarily on a wide, broad, independent, backstanding point of view looking at the whole thing. It was based pretty much on what they've done. And to them, they would say it's a social platform for them, or it's a source of information for them. It's not a game. I can probably find a dozen people out there that will tell me it's a game. It's a game every time.
Yeah.
So, again, it depends who you talk to and the reasons that they themselves are using it for. And that's the thing. We'll always get people saying, "Oh, it's a game." People have this inherent desire to try and put something in a pigeonhole and lock it in there because that's what it is. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a world here, a world that basically mimics the real world, and the real world isn't always a game. So, this is the thing. And I think when you then talk in terms of Linden Labs saying, okay, they went to put it on Steam, which is a gaming platform, and they're saying, okay, we don't want to put it on a gaming platform because it's not a game. Well, okay, some parts of it is. I can go into play parts of Second Life and play games. I've been to one with Claraara several times. We jump in little UFOs and we blast the shit out of each other. I shouldn't say that word. Sorry. We blast the proverbial out of each other. And see how many times we can shoot each other out the sky just for the hell of it. Or we play golf, or we've done all sorts of things. And we are generally playing games, or we can go camping, bowling, and all those kind of things. So there's that out there. But there are other people out there that say that are running businesses, or there are other people that are using it for educational or for artistic purposes. And those people aren't playing games. And it's therefore not fair to put those people in a gaming environment, because they will never be treated seriously. So I respect and I support the decision to not put it on Steam for that reason. You can't be all things to all men, but you can't be you can't be the master of just one and put that one and enforce that on everybody else. That's my take on it.
Okay, that's a good take. But there's also the fact that Steam apparently takes 30%. So those fees.
Well, there's another side of it as well. For the people that do adult activities, they don't necessarily want to. They shouldn't be on Steam anyway. I know there's rules around that. And
Is there really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I don't know much about Steam. I use it for The Sims, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
I've only
rules
got
about
a couple of games, but I haven't really looked into it.
There's a few risque ones out there for sure, there's Steam is a gaming thing. There's kids on there. You can't play adult games with kids. That's going to take you into
ratings,
another problem.
Because all games have ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the kids will always look at the more adult stuff because it's always more fun for them, isn't it? So
But mom
you
and dad
can't do
can
that.
say no. That's on the parents.
Yeah,
That's
mum and dad can say no.
That's like saying that rappers cannot cuss because an 8-year-old might hear it. Like, well, where's the 8-year-old's guardians?
Well, yeah, we have. There's another thing to talk about. You can go into certain Second Life places, and they say, yeah, we want it to be PG rated. We want this to be moderate, or we want this to be adult places. Because of the content that's in there. And there's a desire in some places where the adults want other adults to act like children, in case, and they give the explanation that in case that other children could be behind those adults, looking at the whole thing as well. So for safety's sake, they've taken a decision to keep it down at a certain level. Now that's for them. That's fine from that point of view.
It's their land, their rules.
It's their land, it's their rules, you're right. But adults are adults. Adults also have the right to act as adults if they want to be. As long as they don't enforce that adultness at that age on other people that don't. I personally am not comfortable with being in a place where adults like to play as kids. That's just me. If I'm being told that I'm being enforced in a PG rating place, I get slightly uncomfortable by having that. I also get uncomfortable when I see people that are used to being in PG environments going into environments which are not PG and applying the same rules.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
See, here we are again. We're in a place where people are wanting to pigeonhole things and treat things a certain way. Is it a game? Is it not a game? Is it PG? Is it a moderate? Where do you draw the line? It's either, because frankly, it's either adult or it's not. And let's be honest, you've got to be an adult and have a bank account and be able essentially to run a credit card or debit card to be able to use Second Life in the first place, if you're going to spend any meaningful money on it. So if you don't do it, so basically everybody's a consenting adult on there, unless they are a child using an adult's resources. Now, that's not a decision, I think, for a club owner or an enterprise in Second Life to decide. That's for the person using it, because they're the person that's sitting behind the child and can take the child away from that and say, no, that's content that you shouldn't be looking at. You don't make the decisions for those people, though they're quite capable of doing that for themselves. That's all I would say as regard to that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it's the worst thing that some places are PG like that, because then if that is the situation where you have a child with you, and you want to share Second Life with them, or they're just around, or you just aren't
Well, yeah,
comfortable with the adult stuff. It's not a bad thing that these places exist. Where it goes wrong is when people leave these places and they expect everywhere else to be like that. It's not.
yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. And the other thing about it as well is when the places that you're going to make the decision for you as to whether you are supposed to be having a content filter applied according to age on that. That's being a bit patronising, I think, to some people. Actually, when you could tell an adult that the adult has to play a child in case there's a child behind them, or another adult might have a child behind them. So we're all going to make sure that we're all going to behave like kids. We don't actually have PG here in the UK where I am.
Well,
PG to me is a brand of tea. So
Yeah.
sorry, Chris, I know you don't like tea.
I don't think that it's a problem that some places in Second Life have those rules.
Yeah.
Now, the way they enforce them might be a problem.
If they know they have children there, then by all means. But how do you know? And when you know
That's not what I mean.
But apart from automated accounts, just about every account in Second Life at some point has got to start paying something, and the only way it can do that is by using a bank account with a credit card, a debit card. So to do that, to do that, they have to be an adult.
Okay, so yeah, but some adults are not comfortable with adult content. There's that too. Okay, so it's fine that it's still fine that there are some places that want to be PG and they want that to be their thing. What's not fine is so like if I want to hear some music in Second Life and dance, but either there's kids around me, well sure, there's kids around me and I don't want them to leave the room, and I feel like doing this. There are places I can go.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about kids logging in and getting on Second Life. That's a no-no. Please be at least 18, because you can just as easily go to like a strip club in Second Life, and people avatars will actually be naked and everything. It's 18 plus, but the person running the computer, if they decide they don't want to be somewhere adult, they can. I think it's nice that places like that exist where they can make that choice.
Well, this is the thing. This goes back to what I was saying about Second Life is a virtual world, and it mimics the real world. Let's assume that the real world is the same as Second Life, right? So and actually it is, if you think about it, because in the real world you've got schools, you've got kindergartens, you've got young kids out there, you've got Disney, you've got Teletubbies, you've got all these things out there that young children can relate to. You've also got strip clubs, you've also got gambling, you've also got nudity and adult content out there as well. Do we let children go into those kind of places? No.
Wait.
So that's a difference.
Okay, so wait. It is on Linden Labs to regulate if actual adults are playing. But this in general is the kind of game where you have to be 18 plus. But there are situations where an 18 plus person might not want to go. They would rather like listen to music and have a coffee, and not encounter naked people. And then there are 18 plus people who want to go to the strip club. I mean, these are just examples.
This is just like the real world.
Though. Yeah, that's why we've got.
When I go to Starbucks, I don't expect to see people stripping. It might be more interesting. It might be nice for me if I was mindful of that. But at the end of the day, I'm going in there for a coffee. I'm not going in there for the other stuff.
Yeah,
and when I had my estate, I didn't have any adult furniture in all the public places because I didn't want to have that on my sim. if you want to do that in your house,
Yeah,
that's
not
fine.
everyone wants that.
Yeah, but the public space was for general audience, just to hang out, not to do the deed.
Yeah, but Andy, if you're talking about who is actually logging in, yes, everyone should be 18 plus, and it's up to Linden Labs to regulate that. Also, like if I am a parent and I have a child, like if I'm a parent with an 8-year-old, I'm not going to let them have their own Second Life account if we even do Second Life together.
Well, this is you said should or not should. I mean, it's not a question of whether it should or not. It's just can't. Because, you know, they, as I said,
can sign up for Second Life. That would be a
Because
worry.
it's the internet, and you try your best, but the internet is the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, hang on. So, to be in Second Life and to buy anything, you've got to have a credit card or credit account. You've got to have a debit card or debit account.
I got my first bank account when I was 15, and I had a card.
Can I finish? So, the only way you can have those kind of things is if you are of a certain age.
No, I was 15.
Right?
Yeah,
and what is the minimum age?
Yeah,
You're not 8, are you?
Yeah.
Because the
I think
PG
it would have
limit.
been possible when I was 8, but I don't have parents like that.
The limit for PG is 8 years old or under.
Oh, is
So
it 8?
yes, 8.
In general,
8 years
yeah.
old. Yeah, 8 years old or less. I've looked it up because I wondered what it was myself when I saw it.
I told you
So-
guys that.
That's pretty
So-
young, though. Like I would have thought.
Yeah.
8.
So when you
Yeah.
go into
Yeah.
some club and they say we're applying PG rules here, we're only going to do PG stuff because you might have a child looking over your shoulder. That means they are assuming that everybody in that club potentially, or using it as an argument, everybody's going to have an 8-year-old looking over their shoulder. I mean, that's not the case. We all know that, and let's apply some common sense
Well,
to this.
then the argument becomes that particular place has the wrong idea. But it is their land, their rules. So I mean, while you're there, you gotta do the rules.
Exactly, but you know, when you've got other people that want to go and enjoy it, and then they're being told, "Okay, we want you to act like 8-year-olds." Some people might like that. I'm personally not very comfortable with acting like an 8-year-old, and I'm not saying I'm outspoken and I'm an adult all the time. But you know what I mean?
It's not about acting like an 8-year-old. It's about being squeaky clean to be safe for a like hypothetical imaginary 8-year-old. That kind of environment. That's what people are asking for. They don't want you to act like an 8-year-old. They want you to act safe for 8-year-olds, basically.
Well, they basically want you to act responsibly. That's the whole point, and that's down to the character of the person, not the age of them. Because trust me, I've talked to adults that have played like kids, and I've talked to kids that can be more grown up than some adults, frankly. So just applying an age is not necessarily the answer. It's about responsibility. It's about whether or not you can be responsible, whether you can be mindful of how you talk to other people, and how those people can react to things that you might be saying. That's the main rule on the things there.
Right. That's just generally being an adult and being respectful to people, no matter what kind of environment you're in. Now, hopefully everyone's doing that everywhere. They're not, but you hope.
It was kind of funny. The other day I went to an adult sim, and there was a pool, a public pool, and there was 2 Zooby babies left swimming in the middle of the pool, and I thought, where are the parents? I mean, what happened here? Just left the kids in the pool.
Yeah. I mean, there are basically 2 I mean, there are 3 when you look it up. There's general, moderate, and adult. Okay. But actually, in real terms, there are 2. There's the kids stuff and there's the adult stuff. But some adult stuff is so extreme that you are not allowed, for obvious reasons. I love the way the dog's snoring. You're not allowed to you're not allowed to advertise or promote that kind of extreme content. That's the stuff where you put it in the adult category, and the other lesser adult category is moderate. And there seems to be, and I've looked it up in the community standards, the terms of service. That's the way it's actually defined. So there basically are two categories. It's either kids or adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem comes with a lot of people then go into certain places that are moderate and then start saying, well, it should be PG. Rules in. That's
not what moderate means. If
exactly.
if a landowner is saying that's what it means to us in our place, that's fine. But it's really misconstrued. Like, because the club where Andy and I work is in a moderate land, but we don't care if you want to be naked. We don't maybe want you doing a bunch of adult stuff in front of everybody.
Yeah.
If you can find adult stuff, you can do that away from everyone. But people are like, oh, there's a naked person here, but it's a moderate land. Like, that's not what in Linden TOS, LLTOS. That's not what moderate means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Again, it's pigeonholes. It's people trying to categorize things into something. People have this inherent desire to try and put something in a particular category so that they can view it in that category. And it's sometimes unfortunate that the mind is not necessarily wired or capable or accustomed to thinking a bit more agile and a bit more flexible, because it's a dynamic thing. If you looked at what porn was, but not that I do, but if you looked at what porn was, 100 years ago, it was an awful lot more moderate than it is now. So it's a question of where you draw the line, basically. That's the thing. I think I've talked too much again, haven't I? Guys, you need to be shutting me up,
Yeah, we listen. It's fascinating what you're saying.
Yeah. I don't know about fascinating. It's just my take on it. And where we talk about, is it a game? Isn't it? What's adult? What isn't? It's all about perception. It's all about how people interact with their world. As I say, some people need to have that order and their rules and their category on there, and other people can just get along, and because they are common sense, decent people, they've been potentially brought up in a certain way. They know how to deal with people. They know how to react and how to talk to people, etc. They don't need to have it written down and thrown at them. Here's the rules. Here's what you have to do. It's just people are wired in different. I think that's the thing. Yeah. Anyway, so what's coming down the pipeline, Chris? What new things are happening?
What in terms of what topics?
Well, in terms of
Second Life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're the hard girl on the street out there that doesn't talks to these people, and obviously we've got a lot of content which you're putting out there as well, and obviously your new brand out there too. So what's coming? I know there's some events coming through there. There's the usual stuff going on right now. We've got just finished Ramadan for the people that are of that religion, and then we've got people out there as well which are thinking in terms of the American Cancer Society and how they work with that. And then there's other people out there as well that are looking forward to the next Second Life anniversary and how they're working with that too. I've noticed that there's more developments in terms of the viewers being put into a browser. And in a sense, that's interesting because that's kind of going in the direction that I mentioned a couple of months ago, where I said, you know what, if you're buying time on a browser, then you're starting to move towards a subscription model. And that's a great way of, if the subscription level is pitched at a certain level, then, it then means that you've got, you pay a nominal sum of money and that'll give you the full access, the full fat experience that you get, with all the stuff, and it's been done through the computer, which is great,
Yeah,
and
but
not through your computer.
I've done a poll, and I think the majority was against paying a subscription.
Well,
I'm against it.
Well, when you deal with other virtual worlds that are also that actually have a subscription model, what you do find is the cost of other things comes down. Second Life Land is incredibly expensive.
Yeah, but they can't do that, because if the price goes down, then the creators are not earning any money. So they can't go like the other people, the other platforms.
I'm talking about land. I'm not talking about creating and products. I'm talking about land. What you do with that land is up to you. But the fact that just accessing Second Life and using it on a subscription basis, rather than doing it all for free and then getting the money out of the things that you buy with a commission on that, or the things that you rent with a commission on that, and doing it that way. Because those costs of those things are always going to go up. Server space isn't going to fall in price eventually. Things will always cost more to do that. And obviously, Second Life is getting more complex machine anyway. The fact that they can then say to the people that don't have that kind of hardware, okay, so if you can access it through a browser, that's fine. But you would have then to basically pay us a nominal amount to be able to provide that service to you. I support that. I think that's great, to be perfectly frank. But on the proviso that the other things are then proportionately less. So the money that you're paying for just a regular access as a set amount is the same amount of money that you would potentially be spending in terms of commission to the people that are I'm talking about Second Life commission here, not the creators. The commission that the Second Life gets from that, and the Second Life gets from land sales and those kind of things. Because at the end of the day, Linden Labs are there to make money. This is a business after all. If there's no money, then it will die very quickly. So you've got to think in terms of saying, well, if people can't spend that money, and if you don't then spend the land, etc., how are you going to make the money? Well, the simple answer to that is, okay, pay it on a subscription basis. But don't rate the subscription too high, but make it applicable to everybody. I'll tell you one thing: all the people that have lots and lots of alt accounts, and all the people that have bot accounts, etc., they're not going to get very far if they have to pay a subscription on every one of them, are they? So that's another little thing to think about too.
Okay, but some people do want to have alts and needs alts because they're role playing. So why would they have to pay for 10 accounts if it's on subscriptions?
Okay, so they want to play within this wonderful pixel world that we have. Some people want to role play a particular game where they pretend to be something that they're not. I say something as opposed to someone, because it can be anything. And just like a real gay, if I walk out of my property right now and down to the street down the road here, if I want to go into a place where I'm participating in a particular game and stuff, the people will ask me for some money for that. So it's exactly the same. And but what I'm saying is the cost of facilities used, i.e. the cost of the content or the cost of the land, etc., should be proportionally less to reflect the fact that people are paying that subscription. That's what I'm saying.
Wait a minute.
If you do that, actually, people will end up spending more time in there, and ultimately the revenue coming back from that subscription will increase.
No, no.
In other words, don't pitch the price point too high where people won't afford it.
So I have an alt that handles my money, and a lot of people, well, I think business owners do it. I'm not a business owner, but it helps me. And what if I was paying for that one and mine? Also, Andy, you know what happened to another one of my alts. She took on another life. Yeah.
Yes. So the thing is, do you access those alts for Second Life? No, you're using them for financial purposes. Using for administrative
One is
purposes.
financial. Another one is helps out at Cinna.
So you're not going to spend.
One...
But you're not going to be spending a lot of time on those other accounts. They're there for administration purposes more than anything else. So you don't pay hardly anything for those. In fact, you could almost use them for nothing because you don't actually access them. It's the only one you access is the one that you regularly access Second Life on. These ones are out there for.
That I regularly access Second Life. We should have a podcast about alts one night because they're not.
We have before it. We've done it before. We've done it before.
Okay, well, I have two that I'm on regularly. One of them I live as. It's Claraara. There's another one that was like the old me, and there's a bunch of like. I had a shopping problem, and there's a bunch of stuff there that I still like want.
Yeah. So people use them for different things. All I'm simply saying is the people that got around like 20 alts or more, and there are people that have got that. Yeah, well, that's the people I'm talking about here. And there are people out there, that have got all these other alts, and this will effectively wipe that out because they don't need them. The only way they would need them is by potentially parking them on a place to jack up the figures, like some people do in places to make themselves look more popular.
Yeah, no, there's
that'll stop. That'll stop. I'll tell you one thing: the overall figures that you get for people logged into Second Life that you see when you log into Second Life to start with, that number's going to drop. But I tell you, it'd be a far truer representation of the actual real people that are using Second Life, rather than just the accounts that are logged in one time. Or maybe that's something that the Lindens would not like us to see, because maybe they would like us to see that Second Life is more popular and growing and has a larger population in there. And the fact that population may be artificial or generated as clones of people, etc., is not something that they would like to have recognised in the figures that they provide there. Where I'm going with this thing, you could argue that there are something like 11 to 12,000 people, real people, online at any one time in Second Life, depending on time of day. And yet when you look at the Second Life figures, they can be 45 to 50,000. How many of those 45 to 50,000 are actually real people? Or how many of them are alternative accounts that they've used, or automated accounts? Because they're all going to be aligned all the time. And that's the thing. So if you have less automated accounts, or you have less alt accounts online at any one time, then the population obviously will fall, and you'll have a truer figure as to how many people are actually in there. Of course, people then look at that figure and they'll say, my God, the totals just dropped through the floor. Everyone's leaving Second Life. Well, they're not. It just means that the alt accounts aren't being used as much now. And that's the reason. But you can still use those alt accounts without logging them in and using an internet browser. You could access them through, if you're doing your accounts and stuff in administration, you can do that just through the main account interface. You don't need to be actually accessing a Second Life viewer through a browser and paying a subscription to do so. So, there are. It depends what you're using it for, but I can see that there would be advantages to it. That's my view.
I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, there's you have named some good things about it, but I think putting Second Life behind a paywall, I am one of those people who would not be able to even log on if there was a payroll or a paywall. And I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are lots of people.
Yeah. I've been in more than one virtual world, and every virtual world I've been in, apart from Second Life, has a subscription. That's it. And that's the difference. What I do find is that the commodities and things that you have in Second Life, i.e. land or things that you're buying, etc., are incredibly more, or so much more expensive. If you don't need land, then you don't need to buy it. But the lenders have got to make their money somewhere. What I'm saying, the way they could do it, and this is what I said a couple of times before, if they have a general subscription rate from people, and they have a guaranteed number of people in there, then they are going to make their money no matter what. It's not a question of saying someone is richer than others and they're spending more money in it. Well, they could do. That's entirely up to them. But the Lindens will always be able to fall back on that subscription rate as being a basic. And that's the way that other virtual worlds make their money.
Yeah, but you're talking about land. A, not everyone wants land. B, some of the the landowners in Second Life are not always Linden Labs. Some of them are individual people running their own business.
Yeah, because they can make money out of it.
Yeah, but they would lose all that if Linden Labs started charging for the land.
Well, they'd lose some of it. Yes, they would. You know, what was it? The Chungs basically. She basically was the first millionaire, wasn't she? That made out of land and stuff. If you go back to a couple of other places where I've used there, where the people are spending the equivalent of something like $15 to $18 a month to access something, the cost of the land in those places is equivalent to something like $2 a week, not the $80 to $100 a week that you're paying for things in Second Life.
And there will be less land available.
Well, no, they just put more land out there, and people don't always automatically get more land. You know, people just don't do that. Well, they think because they get to content can just go through the roof. If you then have that land that's on a subscription basis as well, so basically you have that, and it's a flat rate for the land according to the size of it, etc., and what you're using it for, then effectively, you know, you've got a steady revenue coming from the people that are accessing the whole world, and then you've got a little bit extra for the people accessing the land. You're not trying to use the cost of the land to subsidize the people that are doing it for nothing, which is effectively what Second Linden Labs are trying to do right now. And you know, I feel that's wrong. I would find certainly a subscription level where I'm paying between $15 and $18 a month would be very acceptable to me, as long as the cost of the land comes right down.
Yeah, but they can't do that because of those big estates that own the majority of land.
Well, they've built their businesses based on the model where people have to spend so much money on land.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's actually throttling and strangling the ability to develop, the ability for people to access Second Life. And I'm simply saying that if you moved to that subscription model, it would solve so many problems. I'm not saying it would solve every problem, but it would solve so many. That's just my take. Anyway.
No, yeah, I understand that, but I'm just thinking those, if they do that, the one that are paying those biggest estates, wouldn't they just shut down? And that would be a big loss for the Lindens.
Well, no, because the money would automatically, the Lindens will make their money if they pitch it right. The Lindens will make their money no matter what happens anyway. It's just a question of how much the other people decide to charge for their extra land. It will ultimately bring the cost of the land down. It would have to.
Yeah, but what would happen to those estates?
If Linden's tier costs come down, because they're recouping that money from a general subscription from people that are accessing it from the browser, then you know that works for the people. Then you know, from that point of view, and it just makes it easier for those people. If the landlords are automatically making their own cut of the amount of money that's being paid, they can keep that rate. But if the tier costs come down, then it makes it more accessible to everybody. So simply say, okay, so put it on a subscription model, reduce the tier by the same amount, so you keep it. It's a change of mind shift. That's all. I'm not saying it's going to solve every problem, but I know it'll solve an awful lot of problems doing it. There we go. Anyway. We've been talking for a while again, haven't we? I thought we were going to get this thing done in about half an hour.
1 hour?
Yeah.
I'm just filming the plane. I don't know if you see it. My
Awesome.
camera is just following that plane. I don't know if she's going to fly soon. I don't know exactly what she's doing. Danny Airline.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, carry on talking because she's.
Well, no, I say okay. If you carry on doing this thing, if she decides to fly off into
yeah, I just want to see her fly. That would be cool for the video, but.
Exactly. If she decides to fly up into the Great Blue Yonder, that would be a great way for us to wrap it up. But I think next time we're talking about potentially doing another live sync, aren't we?
Yeah.
Another live stream. So yeah. Suggestions on a postcard, please, to Pris, if you have anywhere in mind that you'd like to potentially have us land at. And it must be somewhere that we can actually access. Let's be honest.
Didn't they suggest some places last? Oh, she's flying. Look at this.
She's going.
I've got it. Oh, I've got it. Holy.
Hopefully I'm not in the way. Oh, there she goes. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
Awesome. That puts me in the mood for a holiday, that does. So, yeah. Anyway.
Want to go to Australia, baby?
Yes. Oh, look at this. I'm following her. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Look at.
And on that bombshell, I think we need to wrap it up. But yeah, Pris, thank you again for everything that you're doing on these things, and good luck with the new branding. Obviously, we'll continue to support and follow that as much as we can. Everybody else, please like and subscribe to these channels as much as you can too. We look forward to seeing you in our next live stream, we shall be in about a week or two's time. Details on a postcard as to where you would like to be, if you've got any suggestions on places where you can hold this. If not, we'll let you know near the time as to where we'd like to be. Watch the space, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Bye.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.